Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us once again. I think we were counting last week. This is our 19th or 20th show we've done. And they've definitely gotten a little easier, but we love having all of these guests that we've been having over the weeks. This week, we have Natasha Irich from Fogo Island Inn. I'm Kathy Larson, co-owner of Departures Travel in Sydney, along with Kathy Scott, who is co-owner in Sydney and also has the Departures Travel in Oak Bay as well. And this is kind of bittersweet, this presentation, because last year when we went to St. John's, we really wanted to go to Fogo Island Inn, and unfortunately, yeah, they weren't available. You have to book really early. So, so I'm really excited to hear all about this. So Natasha, if you can share your screen and get us going on a journey out to Newfoundland would be great.
Yeah, so thanks Kathy and Kathy for having me. I'm excited to get everyone excited about Fogo Island. I'm sure many of you have at least seen the picture of the architecture and what it looks like. So I'm going to take you on a big tour of, it's actually a bigger island than what most people think it might be. So this is where we are in the world. So Fogo Island is actually, it's like the northeast corner off of the island of Newfoundland. So we call ourselves the island off of the island. And if anyone believes in the flat earth or anything of that, we are actually one of the four corners of the earth. Is that what we were considered as? So this is an aerial shot view of the island. As you can see, like I was mentioning, it's a lot bigger than what most people would think. We're actually 4 times the size of Manhattan, but we only have about 2,500 people that live on the island. So that's a nice view of to see where everything is. And there's actually 10 outport fishing communities that make up the island that go along while you drive along the coast. So everyone lives along the coast of the island. So just to give you an idea of where, when you're coming into the island, of where you would start. So the closest places would be St. John's, Newfoundland, or Gander. Gander is an international airport, so you can actually land right into there. And then from Gander, you would go to Fogo Island. And then later on in the presentation, I'll let you know a little bit more details about how to get there and your options of how to get there. So Fogo Island actually has 17 seasons, but we decided to mark them into 7. They're quite literal. We base them on the winds and the waves and what there is exactly to do with the seasons. So I'll go into detail a little bit about them here. So trapper season is it's all of June, so June 1st to June 30th, and it's quite self-explanatory. So it's basically when you just put a trap down. So that's when we start fishing for cod, shrimp. Also crab is huge out at that time too. So it's when everyone lays their traps, and that's how we mark that season. Next would be our summer season, so July through the end of August, great for whale watching. We do a lot of tours that go out. If you're taking the ferry over, your chances are you would see one in the bay, which is really beautiful. Summer season is also quite consistent in temperature as well, like the whole East Coast, so it's probably the warmest temperatures that you'll get during the year. Berry season, which next to pack ice, I'd say is my second favorite season. Fogo Island is home to over 25 wild berries that you can eat. Partridge berries being one of the big berries that are there. So during this season, we have Partridge Berry Festival. So it's a big music festival and folk festival that comes in. You can forage and harvest, and people come from all over to not just stay at the inn. So it's a very beautiful season, and lots of foraging. Food, culinary is really big during this time as well. Fall, also very beautiful. Lots of hiking still. The temperatures are quite mild at this point, so fall is also a really nice time of year to visit as well. Winter season, it might look a little daunting, but it's actually between winter and pack ice, stunning. You can still hike all year round, which is really nice. I'll get into the trails and hiking a bit later, but lots of things are able to be done in winter as well. It is a bit longer, but Fogo Islanders thrive during these seasons. They have winter cabins, you can do large boil ups, and it's a lot of time for families to get together during this season. Pack ice season, which we mentioned before, this is my favorite season. So it's very short, but it's one of the only seasons that exists in this world. So it's when the Labrador current comes down and it brings all the ice with it, and it brings it up to the shore during the morning, and then it releases out with the current, and you can actually feel it. So the first time I ever visited the island, I was standing at the inn and I was wondering what this crazy feeling was below my feet. And you can actually feel on the island the ice shifting away and moving. So it's a very special time to visit, and I love it. You could just sit outside your room and watch it for hours. And then spring season is our big iceberg season that comes in. So Fogo Island is actually on Iceberg Alley. So many icebergs start to form and start coming through here. And that's an actual size view of, that's the boat. It's called the Katanga that we take out, and that is how big it is in comparison to it. So it's also quite spectacular, and you can get quite up and close. Same thing from the inn, you can see it while you're just sitting and having your coffee or sitting by your window. So I'm going to get into experiences, because a lot of people's next questions are, well, what is there to do during all these 7 seasons? And a big thing that I'm going to focus on is that Fogo Islanders, and what we believe, is all about community. The community is a big part of it. Anybody that works at the inn or who is taking you to do these excursions lives there. So we always say community is a basic building block of human life, which we think is very important to all the experiences that we give to people that come to visit us. So I'm going to start with kind of how I was portraying the seasons before. So winter, ice skating is really big. Hockey is really big on the island. And during this time too, it's one of the only places on Earth that you can actually ice skate on the ocean. So the ocean does freeze over enough that you're able to skate on it, which is pretty cool. Other than that, there's tons of lakes that freeze over. So this is an example of what a day could look like on the island. Or at night, sometimes we'll set up lights and hot chocolate or drinks and boil ups, and you can skate into the night and watch the stars and be doing that. So it's pretty special. Another thing that we do is snowmobiles. Again, like I mentioned, cabins are really big in the winter. So this is something where you can go up to somebody's cabin that they own, do a boil up and sit in and hike during the day, which is also very nice. So there's an example of, we take a group out, they go snowshoeing, they're hiking for the day. Another one of where you can snowshoe. So this isn't quite frozen over, but this is actually the ocean that you can go up nice and close to, but there are different parts. And that's why we say community is so important, because the community members would be the ones to know where we could take you skating or where it's good enough. So we'd follow them along to go. Hiking is really big on the island. So there's actually over 29 trails that are marked. There's more than that. And hiking can be from anything from kids going to very easy, or to as difficult as you want to be. There's also options to link you up with a guide who's born on the island, who will also take you around to hike, depending on what kind of level you're looking at for hiking. So this is a map, which I'm going to actually send out to Kathy and Kathy to send to everyone on this, but just to give you an idea of how many trails are actually on the island to scale. So anything that's blue along, you can actually walk through or hike through. So you can pretty much hike the whole island if you wanted. And all of these are accessible during the winter as well. So winter hikes are also a big thing to do.
And Natasha, where on the island on that map is Fogo Island Inn?
Okay, so Fogo is in Jobat's Arm. Can you see my mouse?
Yep.
While I'm doing this? So Jobat's Arm. So we're just over here on there. So when you're actually getting onto the island, you'd go from here and then go around and then up and go through here to Jobat's. So that's where the inn exists. And it takes about the entire island. You could do, I'd say, if you drive around it, it's about 45, 50 minutes throughout all the communities to do a loop around. So this is, again, when I was talking about, so pack ice. So this is a picture of someone hiking over and just watching it. As you can see, there's nothing in the ocean, and it all brings it back down. And by the end of the day, that would all be gone back out. So again, as I mentioned, we're on Iceberg Valley, so tons of iceberg watching. This is an example of a punt boat. So punts are really big in Newfoundland, and they bring people to and from the shore. You row them in. So you have an option if you'd like to row a punt boat, we'll take you out, and you can actually row a punt boat nice and close to an iceberg. You don't have to take a big boat because they're so close on shore. Here's a photo of one actually that was just shot last year outside the inn. And it wasn't far. You could see it from the inn. And then I actually had the opportunity of going up in the boat next to it, and it looked exactly like that, which was pretty spectacular. This is a picture of the boat that we take everyone out. So you could rent it out, go by yourself if you'd want, with a partner or with a family or with a group. It fits up to about 16 people that we can take out. Another activity that's really big on the island and very special to us is foraging. We really believe in eating off of the land and everything that is local. So instead of orange juice, you'll get partridge berry juice in the morning, things like that. You also have the opportunity to go out with the team and you can forage for anything that you'd want to eat during your stay on the island. Here's an example of after a forage. So things like juniper berries, you have the partridge berries that are dried, you have fish. So all different kinds of things we really believe in. We have a big preserves program as well. So everything that you're eating is going to be really fresh, or it's been preserved during our programming, or I'll show you in a second that I'm going to get to something like this. You can go out and we hand line our cod. So this is a picture of our magic fish that is a big part of the island and what the island is all about. Our main resource is cod. So this is an example of one. So you could go out and catch one and bring it back, and our chef will cook it for you for supper, or we could package it up and bring it home with you, whichever you prefer. So that's another activity that you could do as well. Here's another example of later night fishing. This is our chef who was doing some fly fishing before. It's not as big, but it is possible to go out and fish for them. But a big thing would be the hand line and cod. Bird watching is really big. We have puffins that are a part of the island, which are these amazing birds. And this is actually we have an island off the island called Little Fogo Island. And we can take a boat out and show you, and there's puffins everywhere, which is quite spectacular. As I mentioned before, berry picking, so that goes with that. You can go out, we can do jamming, bring them back. You can go to somebody's house who's local and bake with them, whatever you'd wish to do. And again, back with the puffins, lots of wildlife. So we have a herd of caribou who have been on the island for many, many years. And you'll see them. We always make the joke that if you're late to work, it's because the caribou were crossing, because there's really no other reason to be late for work. So they're all over the island, and they're really, really nice to watch. And we actually have a really cool program that you can go along with a couple of students and residents that have been tracking them and learning their habits. So if you're interested in wildlife, we can pair you up with someone who can teach you all about what's on the island. These are two dogs, Make and Break. So they're Newfoundland dogs. So every day at 5 p.m., they're in the lobby, but they're available on request. They're very active dogs since they're Newfoundland dogs. So they'll go for 1 million walks a day. If you want to take them out, and you can take them out whenever you want, and they're lovely. And I don't have a picture on me, but just to point out in the back as well, we have bikes. So you can bike around the island, whatever you need, which also comes in, we have all the gear. So whenever we say you come to Fogo, basically just pack yourself and a pair of shoes, and all of your gear that you need, we have for you, whether it's rain boots, jackets, bikes, anything, it's all ready for you when you get to the island. That brings us to food, one of my favorite parts of the island. We have quite elevated cuisine. We are rated one of the top restaurant tables in Canada right now. And we do take traditional, I'll go back to this for a sec. We do take traditional food of the island, but also give it a twist. But this is an example. So when you wake up in the morning, it's different. No one will wake you up. You don't have to call room service, but this is waiting for you every morning when you wake up outside your door. So we call it our break tray. So you'll have freshly made scones that were made that morning at like 3 a.m. and tea and coffee and fresh honey. So that's all waiting for you.
I think those scones in themselves would be enough reason to go.
Oh yeah, they're so good. So they're partridge berry
I
scones.
was going to say they look like the local
Yeah,
berries. Oh my gosh,
yeah.
that's
Look
amazing.
at that view.
Yeah, so this is our dining room, which is quite spectacular. So it sits on the edge of the inn, and it gives you a full 360 view. So there's all windows all the way around. The chandeliers are actually made of boat knots of somebody from the island. Everything that you see in this room has been made on the island as well. Pretty spectacular, especially during iceberg season or whale season, because that would all be lined, all those windows, with icebergs. Or sometimes we can't even do dinner service, or we call it supper service, because there's too many whales outside. So it gives you quite the view, and you can eat there all day round, which is great. And I also like to throw in just a sunset picture as well, just because watching sunset from that dining room is quite spectacular. Here's an example of our cuisine. So like I was saying, it is a little bit elevated. So this is an example of how our chef would use cod and some of the berries and mix them in. Another example on the side of different ways that we've incorporated traditional. So something like this would be smoked turnip. That was something from there and baked in. We do a lot of boil ups. Boil ups kind of consist of, they're more meat heavy or crab or whatever's locally at that season. So here's an example of one of our chefs outside cooking crab for everyone inside. And I can confirm the crab is the best I have ever tasted in the entire world. It's very great. Here's another example. What we do a lot of, we do some weddings, corporate events. So I like to just show that there is examples. If you do have a larger party or that, the dining room can be set for private events. So this is an example of a wedding that we did last year. Same with upstairs, another space that we have. So this is one of the gathering halls that we have, or it is the only gathering hall that we have. So it could be used for meetings. And now when everyone's working from home, if you do need a space to work, hopefully you can come and disconnect. But if you did need, we do have working spaces that you can use, or if you have a bigger group that needs to work. And also another thing is we can convert these spaces into anything. So this is an example of the workspace that you just saw that we turned into a space for a wedding. This is another a new addition in the past 2 years that we've just got. It's called the shed. So there's two types of shed parties in Newfoundland. You can have a shed party, which is in literally somebody's shed, which for them they use as it's a place to tell stories and meet new people, drink, eat. And it's a very important part of Newfoundland culture. But then we decided we'd do more of an upscale shed party. So you can always do that. But we figured in that dining room, instead of having everyone breaking crab and singing, we wanted another space so that you could either have it private with the people that you're with, or what we do is we have sign up suppers. So if you're with your partner or your friend or someone, you can come down and actually sign up and eat and meet new people. So it's the idea of gathering in a space together. So I'll show you with the inside. So this is what the inside of it looks like. So as you'll see, it's more of a communal family style seating and setting where you get to know people. And we usually on the side have music playing and someone's storytelling. So it's quite a special experience. And it looks far removed, but the inn is only about probably a minute walk from there. This is our library. So another space, if you've decided to work or want to get away, everything in there is Newfoundland heritage. Books and reading, which you could just get lost in there for hours. And it's a really nice place just to sit. So we also have a cinema, which seats 20 or over 29 of who's staying in the inn. So it's actually a partnership with the Canadian Film Board that we have. So we show a lot of their films, as well as we have a lot of artists that come to the island a lot. So they'll give some talks, or occasionally Zita, who's the owner, will talk there, or some of us will go up and speak about experiences. So it's really nice. And same thing, if there's a game on that you want to watch, or a particular movie, or if you have kids that want to go in, it's a good little space that we can use for that as well. So now I'll get into the nice stuff, all the rooms. So we have 29 rooms in total. 13 we consider there are Labrador rooms. So there are lower level rooms, and then Newfoundland is the middle, and then we have suites. All rooms are spectacular. So I'll show you what they all look like. So this is an example of a Labrador room. So all the rooms come with floor to ceiling windows. These two windows that you see actually completely open into the room. So you can just feel the ocean air come in and smell it, which is pretty amazing. You could just sit in your seat forever. Everything in the room is made on Fogo Island, with the exception of the binoculars are made in Germany. The lamp is made in Montreal, and we took a long time to source where those are going to come from. So we put a lot of time and effort into figuring out exactly what goes into the room. So for example, the quilt, guaranteed you'll probably meet the person that made the quilt. If you flip it over, they're all hand sewn in of who made them. So if you don't meet them, you'll meet somebody that's in their family. And we do have a wood shop on the island where everything is produced, which is really, really nice. So same thing with the wallpaper, the flooring, everything you see. These are Newfoundland rooms, so they're a little bit bigger, and they have usually a wood stove, and it's up to you. We can keep it for you or give you the wood, whatever you decide on. So that's what we have in the Newfoundland room. So you can see they're a little bit bigger to scale, but same idea, floor to ceiling windows. These are the suites. So the suites are a bit, if you're traveling with a family, they're a little bit better for that. And all beds, I should mention, are king size that can be split into double. So if you did want to share the room with someone, you have the option of splitting the bed, which is really nice. Here's another example of a suite. So looking down, so for example, you'd have the bed on top, and then down there that could be converted into a bed for a family member or a child, for example. This is our flat earth suite. So we consider this to be like our presidential suite of it. So it's on the corner of the inn. It's the biggest room. Same thing. So the bedroom would sit up there with completely overlooking and all floor to ceiling windows in there as well. On the top, so we have hot tubs. So we have two. So we have one that's here and then one on the other side as well, on the rooftop, and just an amazing view that overlooks the entire Atlantic. We also have a sauna as well in there for everybody's use. This is an example, or this is the tea room. So every day there's tea served in here. So this is just off the corner of like where the dining room is, so you can sit. So it's another little corner that you can go and enjoy. And it's actually just next to the art gallery. So we do have a lot of artists in residence who work for the Fogo Island in arts component. So usually 4 times a year we display an art exhibit, and there'll be an artist talk, and there's a gallery and a whole thing to take you through it, and we can give you a tour, and that's in the inn as well. So that brings me to, while I talk about Fogo Island Arts, I'll touch on it a bit. So our business model is a little bit different than most. We're actually, the inn is owned, we say, by the community. So the community owns the inn, and it's their source of income or the way of giving back. So Shorefast is the charity, and they have a couple offshoots. So we have Fogo Island Arts that we talked about. The inn is a part of it, the wood shop, Fogo Island Fish. So we distribute our fish mostly all over Canada, especially in Toronto. And then we have a business fund. So a lot of smaller offshoot businesses. So there's a couple other places to eat on the island, which if you're part of the island and you come, you can eat there, and they're a part of the inn as well. So a different dining experience. So we micro lend to start other businesses, and a couple ocean ethic initiatives. So when we say whenever you're staying at the inn, you're actually helping the community and giving back to them, which is really great. So that brings us to our economic nutrition model. So when we talk about giving back, we're very transparent in where your money goes. We think it's very important. So we show you exactly how much labor, and we're very happy with that, because then we're paying everyone very well. Shows you back to room supplies, operations, and then our surplus, which is, we usually aim around here a bit higher, so that gets reinvested back into Fogo Island. And as you can see, we're very happy with 65% of the money stays on Fogo Island, 13% in Newfoundland, 19% in Canada, and only 3% in the rest of the world. So we really, really try and keep it as local as possible. So these are some examples of the artist studios that exist, which I'm sure people have seen some pictures of these. So these are also part of the hikes. They're wonderful to hike too. Which you can see, the same architect who designed the inn as well. This is my favorite, Squish Studio. So it's the farthest away in Tilting, and none of them have electricity. They're all run by solar power. And it's where we have artists come and create, and they also give back to the island as part of that project. Here's another one. So there's 4 in total. And now I'll get, last but not least, getting to Fogo. I know it seems a little bit daunting, but it's not as scary as some people might think. And we always say the journey is a big part of getting to the island itself. So I like to just kind of show where in the world, like I did mention, but more zoomed in, where Fogo is in comparison to everything. This is not as far as people might think, but I started with Vancouver just because that's where more people would be coming from. So Vancouver would be the hub, and you'd either want to get Toronto, Montreal, or Halifax. I always tell people it's a great journey to have. You can kind of do a slower trip if you want and stop off in those places on the way. From Halifax, then you're either going to St. John's or Gander. And like I mentioned before, Gander is an international airport. And if anyone's ever heard from Come From Away, the play that became quite popular in the past couple of years, that is Gander. So when you do land there, it is quite special, and it's like walking right into the 70s. Nothing has changed. The architecture is very, very cool. And we can also provide you with a tour of that. So once you get there. So same thing from Calgary. Calgary actually has a direct flight to Halifax to Gander. So that's also an option for people. Toronto has options as well, obviously a little bit closer. So Toronto, Halifax, St. John's, Gander to Fogo. And there is options of, if you do want to land on the island and you are thinking of more of a direct flight, you can charter. So we do have an airstrip on the island. So that's something to keep in mind if you're ever curious about that. Same thing, so Ottawa, and that's about it.
It's just amazing, Natasha. I have to say it's one of the most visually stunning presentations we've seen. So, and we're just
Great.
seeing the pictures. So I can't even imagine what beauty must lie ahead of you when you take this trip.
Yeah, it's definitely, the whole entire thing is visually appealing. As soon as you get to Newfoundland, that's when it all begins, and it's all very worth that trip of getting down there for sure.
And I think for us, we're already islanders, so we get the fact that it sometimes takes a little longer to get to beautiful places. So that's all part of it for us. Question for you.
Yeah.
What do most people go for? Is it mostly R&R, or do people go for other reasons?
It depends. I find a lot of the first time people that come, it's more just they've seen it, they're really interested, and there's a lot to do. And especially when you have it explained, I think it's important. There's so much that you can do, but I think it's more to take in the architecture and the beauty of it and the views of where it is. And then I find a lot of our return guests from there, once they get more immersed, they might, for example, take a car and try and do more hikes or explore a bit more. But there definitely is an R&R component to it. I think a lot of people like to just come and disconnect. And there's most people, I say, when they first get there and realize when you can open the windows that big and just sit there, we'll go and check and make sure that they're okay and settled, because you could sit there for hours and just kind of watch the world go by and just look. So yeah.
And I imagine that lack of light pollution must really make for, I mean, just the picture here, you can see that the stargazing would be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, there's zero light pollution out there. So it's, other than the inn itself, which is very low. It looks bright in this picture how it is, but in comparison to that, yeah, you can see everything for as far as your eyes can go.
That's just magical. Well, thank you so much for sharing this with us today. I'm
Thank you
sure
for
that
having me.
Yeah, many people will be very inspired for sure, and myself and Kathy for sure included.
Yes, definitely.
And I'm very sorry we didn't get out there before, but actually that's okay, because this year is sort of that year that we're waiting to see when your little bubble opens up. And as we were talking earlier before the presentation, I think that since we have both two very safe places, our little islands, I think we should be allowed to have one big bubble. But anyway,
I agree. I think
we
that's
don't make
a great
the rules.
idea.
Well, thank you again for joining us, and thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
We look forward to having you all on our next week's show, which at the moment I can't remember what it is, but it'll be something fabulous. So we'll see you all next week.
Great. Thank you.